Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are looking at something that feels like, well, it feels like a magic button for local SEO, these automated business citation services.
Oh yeah, platforms like Yext. They promise to take your business info, your name, address, phone number, and just, blast it out everywhere.
Exactly, across dozens, maybe hundreds of directory sites, almost instantly. It just sounds so perfect, so easy.
It's incredibly tempting. And that's the whole sales pitch, right? You pay a fee, you click a button, and boom, suddenly you have, say, 70 live links out there. But, and this is the big but, our sources show there's a huge problem that most people just completely miss.
That is the absolute core of our deep dive today. We've been looking at tests run on these systems, and honestly, the findings are kind of shocking. Our mission is to figure out why almost all the money spent on these services is, frankly, wasted.
And then, more importantly, how you can actually reclaim that value.
Right. So let's just get right to the headline number. In the tests we reviewed, after weeks of waiting, only about 6% of automated citations were actually indexed by Google.
6%. Just think about that for a second. You're paying a monthly fee, and 94% of what you bought is not doing its job. It's there, but Google can't see it, so it's giving you zero SEO benefit.
Okay, let's unpack this. 94% invisibility is a serious, serious problem. It points to, I think, a fundamental misunderstanding of how this all works. So we need to get into the mechanics of why they vanish and then lay out a strategy to force Google to actually see them.
Yeah.
So let's start with that basic confusion, because I think this is where business owners get tripped up. If I can click a link and I see my business listing right there, live on some directory, why can't Google? Why are 94% of them missed?
It all comes down to confusing two very different words, live and indexed. And to really get it, I think we should go back to our giant library analogy. It just makes it so clear.
Please, I think every business owner has felt like their listing is in some dusty basement somewhere.
That's a perfect way to put it. So imagine the entire internet is this gigantic, ever-expanding library. Google is the librarian and the Google index.
Yeah.
That's the card catalog, the searchable catalog.
Okay, I'm with you.
Now, if a book isn't in that card catalog, doesn't matter how great it is or that it's physically on a shelf,
Yeah.
no one searching for that topic will ever find it.
Right.
When a service like Yext puts your listing out there, it's now live. In our analogy, that just means the book has been placed on a shelf, but it's in the darkest, deepest sub-basement. It exists, but until the librarian, that's Googlebot, finds it, reads it, and makes a card for it, it is not indexed.
So it's not searchable by anyone using the catalog, even though it's technically in the building.
Precisely. And the sources we looked at are crystal clear on this. The value of a citation for your local ranking is 100% tied to its indexation. A listing that is non-indexed, it equals almost no value.
It can't help your authority, can't build your geographic relevance. None of it.
And nothing. It definitely won't help you get into the map back.
So that makes the librarian's process, the crawling, that's the real bottleneck here. If the book is on the shelf, why does the librarian just skip that aisle? Why do these automated platforms end up so low on Google's to-do list?
It really boils down to two big constraints for Google. Remember, Google is a for-profit company, and its biggest limits are time and money, resources.
Right.
So first, they don't really trust the neighborhoods where a lot of these listings are located. Many of these directories are what Google would call, low quality. They don't have a lot of unique content. They have low domain authority.
So the platform itself is already a low-value signal.
That's half of it. The other half is this concept of thin crawl budgets. Googlebot can't visit every single page on the internet every day. It just can't. So it has to prioritize. It saves its crawl budget for the big sites, news outlets, Wikipedia, major social platforms.
And the thousands of little directory pages with my business info on them?
They're at the very, very bottom of the list. They get put off again and again. It's like the librarian always deciding to catalog the new bestsellers, so those books in the basement they never get seen.
And the consequence is pretty stark.
Yeah. If Googlebot never crawls the page, it's not indexed, and the sources say not crawled equals no value whatsoever. You're just wasting your money. You're paying a monthly fee to, and I love this quote from one of the sources, decorate the internet, not build local SEO authority.
That is a harsh but very clear reality. And it brings us to the practical side of things. A lot of agencies, a lot of business owners are kind of locked into Yext. Maybe it's just convenient or it integrates with their other tools like GHL.
For sure, yeah. For anyone who doesn't know, GHL is Go HighLevel. It's a huge platform for marketing agencies. So yeah, the integration is a real challenge. It's hard to just rip it out.
So the goal might not be to just abandon the service entirely, but to change how you interact with it. How do we take these passive invisible citations and turn them into actual verifiable indexed assets? This is where the rubber meets the road.
This is it. This is the active management piece that separates people who get results from people who just spend money. If you've paid for these listings, you have to take ownership of getting them indexed.
Okay, so how do we do that?
The sources lay out a really clear four-step method to basically force Google to pay attention.
Let's hear it.
Step 1, collect your URLs. As soon as the system says the listings are live, you need a complete list. Export them, copy-paste them, whatever it takes. Get every single live URL into a spreadsheet. It seems basic, but this is the non-negotiable first step.
Okay, so I have my spreadsheet full of dusty book locations. How do I get the librarian to actually go look at them?
That brings us to step 2. Use an indexing service. You need a dedicated third-party tool that's built specifically to solve this crawl budget problem.
What do these services actually do? I mean, the sources mention things like fetch requests and ping networks, which sounds pretty technical.
Yeah, let's break that down. Essentially, these services create activity that gets Googlebot's attention. A fetch request is basically an official message to Google saying, hey, I just updated this URL. You can look at it now.
Okay.
A ping network is kind of like sending out thousands of little digital smoke signals from all over the internet, all pointing back to your citations URL. It makes it look like it's being discovered organically. And then things like link pyramids are just older tactics to pass a tiny bit of authority to the page to, again, get the crawler interested.
So you're basically bribing the librarian to look at your book. Now, these services, they cost money too, right?
They do, and you have to factor that into your total cost. But think about it. If your other option is paying for Yext and getting 6% indexation, the cost of the indexer is the only thing that makes the original spending worthwhile. You're turning a useless expense into an actual asset.
That makes sense. What's next?
Step 3, and this is crucial. Implement a slow drip rate. Do not just take your spreadsheet of 70 URLs and dump them all into the indexer on day 1.
Why not? What happens if you do?
Google spam filters will see this huge, sudden, unnatural wave of low-quality links all getting submitted at once. It's a massive red flag that you're trying to manipulate things. You risk getting all those submissions just ignored.
So what's the recommended pace?
Nice and slow. Drip those 70 URLs over 30 to 45 days. It creates a much more natural-looking pattern, as if Google is just discovering them over time.
You're managing Google's perception.
Exactly. And that leads to the final step. Step 4. Track your indexing status. You can't just set it and forget it. You have to verify it worked. The easiest way is using Google's Cite search operator.
Can you explain how that works?
Sure. You just go to Google and type Cite,
Oh.
and then paste in the exact URL of your citation. If it shows up in the search results, it's indexed. If you get nothing, it's not, and you need to resubmit it.
Okay, so that 4-step process is the fix. That's how you salvage value from these big generic systems. But now let's talk about the bonus strategy. Let's move beyond just fixing Yext and talk about building real, durable authority.
Right. This is about strategic supplementation. It's quality over quantity. You're looking for citations from sources that have real contextual and geographic trust, things generic directories just can't offer.
So what are some examples?
Think about your local chamber of commerce. Why is a link from them so much more powerful?
Well, you have to actually pay to be a member. You have to be a verified business. It's not some random form you fill out online.
Precisely. That link validates your physical business in a way Google trusts. Same thing with local networking groups like B&I Business Networking International. Their public directories carry a strong local signal because there's a real-world vetting process.
And what about industry-specific directories?
Oh, those are gold. If you're a plumber, getting a citation from the State Association of Plumbers gives Google incredible context. It signals your niche authority. These links are so much more valuable, even if they're no-follow. But you still have to run them through that same 4-step indexing process to make sure they're seen.
So that brings up a really critical point, this hidden cost of convenience. What happens when a business owner cancels their Yext subscription? They've done all this work, they've gotten some things indexed. Do they keep those assets?
This is maybe the most important takeaway from the sources we analyzed, and the answer is a hard no. It confirms that you are not building an asset, you are in a rental agreement.
Wow.
Yext citations almost all disappear when you cancel.
What does that look like in practice? The pages just go away.
They do. In the test we saw, the vast majority of those URLs immediately started showing a 404 not found error as soon as the subscription was canceled. The digital listing is just demolished.
Okay, but what about the few that you work so hard to get indexed?
Yeah.
That's 6%.
Gone. And this is the real kicker. Even those very few links that Google had indexed and were providing some SEO value, they are no longer indexed after you cancel. Google sees the 404 page and just removes them from its index.
So you lose everything. The moment you start paying, any authority you thought you built just vanishes.
It vanishes completely. It's a temporary, rented solution, which really reinforces the argument that there are much better, more permanent ways to build citation authority.
So what does this all mean for you, the person listening and trying to manage a local business presence? I mean, it's a total shift in how you should think about this.
It is. The main lesson is that your work begins, it doesn't end when a listing goes live. The only metric that counts at the end of the day is verified indexing.
And if you're paying every month for one of these services, but you're not doing the 4-step indexing strategy,
You're paying for a passive, low-impact tactic. And remember, these indexing strategies, collecting your URLs, dripping them slowly, tracking them, you should apply this to any citation you build, not just the automated ones. That's how you turn a checklist item into a real asset.
it really is the difference between having a blueprint and actually building the house. And that brings us to our final thought for you to chew on. Let's say a service like this costs $500 a year. It gives you 70 links, but we know only about 6% of those actually get indexed and become functional assets.
That's about 4 links.
4 working links. So how much are you really paying for each one of those functional assets? And when you calculate that sky-high cost per link, does it really deliver a good return on investment? Especially when you compare it to the permanent high trust value of those strategic links we talked about, like the Chamber of Commerce. That cost of convenience is something definitely worth tracking.